Hello, welcome to Global Mirror, a show where we get you the major happenings around the world this week. I'm Shreya Upadhyaya. On the show today, we talk about the massive attacks in Lebanon this week, targeting Hezbollah group, the latest in American elections, who's leading the opinion polls, how India responded to Iran's supreme leader, and why Canada has accused India of interfering in its parliament. Let's start with the latest in the US presidential elections first. As per the latest polls, Democrat nominee Kamala Harris has extended her lead over Republican Donald Trump. The polls have been conducted after the September 10th televised debate between the two candidates. A Reuters Ipsos poll states that Kamala now leads her Republican rival 47 to 42%. According to the latest Economist YouGov poll, Kamala leads the White House race by 4 percentage points among registered US voters. This is, remember, reportedly the largest lead any presidential candidate has registered in any weekly Economist YouGov poll in nearly a year. Meanwhile, Real Clear Politics, which gives Kamala a 1.4-point lead over her 78-year-old opponent on the 10th of September, has now increased it to 2 points, 49.3% to 47.3% as of 19th of September. So that's the latest as far as the two candidates are concerned as of now in the opinion polls. Let's shift our focus now to the other major happening that happened this week in West Asia. 2 years after violent anti-government protests, Sri Lanka and Sri Lankans are all set for a critical presidential election. The election will mark the first electoral process since the nation defaulted on its debt and declared bankruptcy in 2022. Even though the battle has 38 candidates, it's a four-way fight between Ranil Wickremesinghe, Anura Dissanayake, Sajith Premadasa and Namal Rajapaksa. The economy's revival, remember, is the dominant issue in these polls, with many Lankans working two jobs, salaries being cut, and household goods getting dearer. To help us get a perspective of how Sri Lankans are really seeing this political battle and the presidential elections, on the broadcast, I'm joined by Iqbal Athas. He's a political editor of Sunday Times. He's joining us from Sri Lanka. Mr. Athas, thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now. My first question to you, this is a crucial presidential election that's happening in Sri Lanka. It's a four-way fight between the political bigwigs. How are you seeing this entire election?
Well, this has been one of the most closely contested polls, and it is taking place in the backdrop of a number of other elections being put on hold in the past years, at least for the last 4 years. One is the provincial elections, and then there is the local elections, and so on. So this is the first election in the last 4 years, and this is the result of the conclusion of former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's term. Although he had a term of 5 years, he was forced to give up after 2 years, and he fled the country and sent in his resignation from Singapore. The parliament elected Ranil Wickremesinghe as the president thereafter, and he had just concluded his term.
Mr. Athas, these are the first elections that are being held after the protests and the unrest that Sri Lanka witnessed back in 2022. Since then, it has been quite unstable, at least economy-wise. But this time around, of course, economy has taken center stage. What other issues are concerning Sri Lankans at the moment?
I would say, in addition to the economy, one of the crucial issues which have been repeated in a number of election platforms is the growth in bribery and corruption. And even the International Monetary Fund, which came to assist Sri Lanka with an economic package, has made it a point to say that there should be measures to counter bribery and corruption. And they have, in fact, undertaken to sort of go into governance issues. So we are not altogether out of the woods when it comes to the economy itself, although there is stability to a very large degree.
And what about the young voters, Mr. Athas? Of course, for youngsters, employment is one big issue. What are their concerns in these elections?
Well, their main campaign, it appears, is to seek a change because employment has been one major issue. And we have seen an outflow of a number of youth from this country. So those who are remaining appear to be frustrated and they are wanting jobs. And that doesn't seem to be forthcoming the way they expect it to.
Okay, I also want to talk about the opinion polls as far as this entire political battle is concerned. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have some numbers with me. You've got Anura Dissanayake leading the opinion polls at 48%. Then there is Mr. Premadasa at 25%, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe at 20%, and Mr. Rajapaksa at 5%. So basically, it's the main battle is between Mr. Dissanayake and Mr. Premadasa. What is it that is working for these two people? What is it that is resonating with the voter that these two candidates are at the first two positions?
One thing to bear in mind is that most of the so-called surveys or forecasts have been the result of parties that are interested in ushering in a result of their own choice. Having said that, in Sri Lanka, this is the first time an election is being held with hardly any interest. If you see them in the streets and so on, you won't feel that there is going to be an election. But that apart, the campaign itself and talking to people, one gets the impression, although there are 29 candidates, one has died and there are 28. The real battle is right now, from what we gather, is between Sajith Premadasa and Anura Kumara Dissanayake. But those who campaign for President Ranil Wickremesinghe are also insisting that they will have a sizable share of the youth vote and he can win the election. But we don't know whether that's a reality or not. But this is going to be a very keenly fought election and campaigning have been very high. And also every candidate has been spending higher amounts.
Also help us understand about the ethnic minorities and how they vote. As far as the candidates are concerned, all four are Sinhalese. But, a considerable number of ethnic minorities also constituted by Tamilians and Muslims. How much of an impact will they have as far as this election is concerned?
Well, one area of interest is particularly in the northern Jaffna Peninsula, which has seen the ravages of a war. Now, there the predominant party has been the Ilangai Tamil Arasu Katchi, and their leader is backing a common candidate of the Tamils, a politician who is coming from the eastern province. And therefore, the Tamil votes are going to be deflected to many persons. Mr. Wickremesinghe will get some votes, but the youth elements will vote for Anura Kumara Dissanayake, though the numbers may be less. So it's not going to be an all-out phenomenon where the Tamil voters are concerned in the Jaffna Peninsula. Having said that, when we come to the east, where there's a very heavy concentration of Muslims, those votes are going to be for Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Okay, my last question to you, Mr. Athas. What is the general sentiment of Sri Lankans as citizens? Do they want change? They've seen unrest, they've seen chaos, and they're now dealing with an unstable economy. What is the general sentiment this time around? Do they want change in regime?
That's an interesting question because most of those who are commenting on these developments make one point that for 75 long years since independence, that the governments have been shifting between one fortunate group to another fortunate group and vice versa. And they attribute this also to be the main factor for corruption with, nepotism and so on. Therefore, there is a yearning for change. To what degree it's going to manifest itself in the results of the election is the biggest question that most are looking forward to.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Iqbal Athas, for joining us on Mirror Now and helping us understand how Sri Lankans are really looking at these presidential elections. Thank you very much. With that,